Thank you very much for joining us once again on the Voice of Job Seekers. This is Mark, and I'm your host as always. And today is a very special edition of the podcast. So if you want to head over to thevoiceofjobseekers.com, you'll see the show notes, and I'll be sure to include all the links that you possibly need. I want to invite back Torin Ellis, who has been a recruiter for more than 20 years. He's founder of the Ellis brand, a human capitalist strategist, diversity ambassador, interview architect, and now an author. Rip the Resume is what we'll be talking about. He is also a recent winner of Top Recruiter, Reign of the Bosses on toprecruiter.tv. Want to welcome back Torin. How are you, sir?
Good morning to you. Thank you. And as always, I appreciate you trusting my voice with your tribe, your digital tribe. So thank you.
Well, man, you definitely have earned that right. And I appreciate you coming on as we've been planning really the whole summer.
We have. You know, and to be honest with you, Mark, I have several of these pre-planned, if you will, opportunities where people reached out to me and said, you know, we want to do something close to the time that Rip the Resume comes out. I think the earliest one that I had was about 6 months out. And so I appreciate you being one of the first to get on that calendar.
Well, good deal. I'm glad. And for most of the books that I've ever done as far as the show, I try to stay right on that first week for the most part. So glad to do it. Love to be a part of it. Always love the launches. And it creates a lot of interest for the author as well, especially they're right on top of it. So this would be great. So as we talk about, let's talk about the title. Is it R.I.P. the resume, or is it Rest in Peace the resume? I'd like to know. I have my thoughts of what it might be, but please share what your intentions were.
Well, absolutely. First and foremost, the complete title of the book is Rip the Resume. It's job search and interview tactics to make you a better prepared job seeker, if you will. And so the title for me is really about, cutting up and taking away, divorcing oneself from some of the older tactics of placing a resume or putting a resume together.
Amen.
And it's not so much so that resumes are not important or that they're not vital still today, because I know with so much HR technology happening, I know that a lot of individuals are moving towards, utilizing online solutions and perhaps doing away with the resumes in the most traditional of sense. But resumes are still important. They're still a factor in the equation. And so what I want is for people to have powerful resumes. And so it's really about making sure that if you're going to use the document, that you use the document and put it together in a strong and convincing way.
Gotcha. So you do spend part of that time in the book talking about updating the resume.
Most certainly. We start off with, the purpose of it. I mean, making sure that people understand that. Well, first of all, let me just back up. The book is not written from a clinical standpoint. It's not so much so an instructional manual as it is an informational manual. It's
Right.
actually more aspirational, if you will. And so we do spend time talking with, or shall I say, communicating with the reader that there's certain aspects of the resume that are just critically important. And we want to make sure that in the very beginning, you admit some of the most common mistakes, which are including an objective, omitting vital details, and repeating information. And so those three things automatically detract from the value of your resume. We try to make sure that the reader understands we're trying to help you put together a solid document, one that you will be confident in sending across to anyone.
Right. So in your version, and there's so many opinions about the resume. I feel like everybody can make an argument on one side or the other of how crucial it is to have one. I think it is still also a relevant document that you must have. for most people. But I'm sure there are other ways that you've talked about the resume as far as having some substance behind what is on that, those one or two or three pages, depending upon where you're applying and who you're applying to, that they have to have that substance behind the resume.
Yeah, so we actually did a session a few weeks back on Sirius XM where I focused on Rip the Resume. And one of the things that I shared with the audience that was extremely important is that they focus on putting numbers in their resume.
Hmm.
Numbers are what draw my attention in as a recruiter. And as I'm looking at a person's document, if it is nothing but words describing your roles and responsibility and tasks, if you will, I sort of check out. But if I am able to see numbers on the document, it commands my attention. But more importantly, it says that you as an individual have been productive, that you have driven results, that you have made things happen, that you have been collaborative, that you've created synergy. The numbers say something that the words can't say, which is why there is even a section in the Rip the Resume where I talk about making sure you have five descriptive sentences before you start, you have five adverbs before you start, and that you have five accomplishments before you sit down and start writing that document.
Hmm.
Have those three sets of five laid out in front of you because trust me and believe me, as you move forward, they will become instrumental in how you shape a powerful and robust resume.
Yeah, we usually call it, and many resume writers have passed through here. I used to write resumes quite a bit. I quantifiable results is what's often used as a way, but I appreciate you putting it in another context so that people can start to associating how important numbers are to catching the eye. And it's hard to scan over numbers. I mean, hard to ignore them when you put them on. And I've talked to many of HR folks over the years that is the case. That when they have something that's measurable and quantifiable, then they're able to identify with the candidate a lot more than without it.
No, absolutely. So, I mean, again, it's just about, it's not necessarily that these are some of the newer tricks of the trade, but what I have done is I put them in more of a story format so that it's an easier, more digestible, and more engaging read.
Hmm.
Because let's be honest, you interviewing and doing a resume, there's nothing that's really fun about reading that type of a resource. And
Yeah.
so I knew that I had to write it in a different way, deliver it differently than the other resources that you might find inside of a Barnes and Noble or Amazon.com.
You probably can't say it enough, but I think that as well, and as you know, as we begin to to move forward, that the resume isn't the end all and be all to everything that we do.
No, the resume is actually just serves one purpose. It serves the purpose of securing a conversation,
Yeah. Yeah.
granting you an opportunity to get a meeting. The resume does that and only that. It
Yes.
will never do anything more than get you a conversation. And so it really is about the results and the story and all that is contained within that document. When you talk about results, one of the things that I mention inside of the book is star candidates. I say the average candidate digs with a shovel, star candidates, they dig with a spoon, and
Hmm.
they really get in and they try to find out the detail about not only the organization but detail about the responsibility, detail about the industry, competition. They put themselves in a position, even on the document they are writing, from a standpoint of how do I make sure that when a person reads this, that they feel like I've already done my SWOT analysis, that I'm prepared to automatically be inserted in this team, their team, and immediately deliver results. That's the way that I want people to be able to write a resume. I
Hmm.
want a person to read your document and feel like I have to have this person on my team because this person is prepared to immediately deliver results.
most people don't dig very deeply into their resume, or to really, even as they practice interviewing, they don't dig deep into their personal well of knowledge and to bring those kind of things out, because most people are thinking that they're just going to answer some questions and all that. Really, you want to drive more of a conversation than you really do expect to be interrogated.
Right. And so again, and when you talk about that conversation, I just mentioned star candidates, and
Mm-hmm.
star candidates understand that when they when the resume does achieve the objective, which is getting the person the meeting,
Mm-hmm.
but then it just begins there. So now you have to understand how to conversation map. How do I structure my interview so that when I do walk into that office and when I am sitting across from that individual, that I am able to usher this conversation to a more favorable result. And so we talk about that in the book. How do you map out that conversation so that it looks like you need it to look from beginning to end? We talk about how you do that over the phone. Some people struggle with having a conversation over the phone. So we conversation map over the phone so that your phone screen is strong and powerful and
Mm-hmm.
convincing. So you're absolutely right, man. It comes down to the conversation, and that's something that Judith Glasner has built her entire career on. Everything happens through conversation. And so I often refer to interviews as conversations. I interchange the word, conversation and interview often, because I want people to allay. I want to allay the concerns of a lot of candidates. It's not an interview. It's another conversation.
Yeah.
Just go do a great job and have a strong conversation, and you most likely will get a favorable result.
Yeah, I think as well. In as when you're a star candidate, you have a more holistic point of view as far as how everything is going to go, and that you're not uh, expecting one meeting to do everything for you. And there are a series of conversations now. And there are a series of conversations not with just one or two people. It could be up to 10 or 12 people, splintered in groups, with panels. And you have to be ready to have dialogue, or give the illusion that you're having dialogue with each of those individuals, even though they're in a group together, so that you're connecting with each person that's interviewing you. And that makes it kind of challenging for most people. And, the good ones are going to, be exhausted after the interview, because you're putting forth so much energy, because you're giving to each of those people there in each of those conversations.
Well, you are, and again, that you actually put it in a different context when you say you're giving up so much energy. You're treating it like a professional game, like you're on the field and you're leaving it all on the field. And I think that that's a realistic way to look at it. That when you
Hmm.
do go into this conversation, you are supposed to leave it all on the field. But I think before the game, it all comes down to the preparation.
Preparation. Yes.
Absolutely, it comes down
Yes.
to the preparation. So I make sure that, as candidates, whether I am representing the person as a candidate, whether this individual is one of my coaching clients and I'm providing them with some consultation,
Hmm.
we have a strategy that we put in place so that, they don't get burnt out in the process, but that they do change how they put the formula together. Because for so many people, comfort for them is hitting that enter button, immediately hitting that enter button, and expressing interest. And that's not always the best thing to do. And so we really try to put together a strong formula all the way around so that they feel like, from a prepared standpoint, they are ready to have those conversations whenever those conversations are afforded to them.
Well, you've given already a couple of little pieces and nuggets of that. The preparation is gold, for sure, in the interview process, and that you're ready to give and put everything out there that you can. And that will only come preparation, because if you're not putting everything out there, that means you haven't done the groundwork yet. What would you say would be another piece of that puzzle to interview successfully in a sometimes a very long process?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's so many things.
If there's one that you could think of, how about even the new when you get near the end of the process? You know, you've had the third or fourth interview. They've told you already that this is probably going to be the last meeting. In that last interview session, more than likely there are going to be questions that you'll need to have if you haven't started asking already. Uh, what kinds of things and dynamic there that will help people stand out?
Well, I would say, first and foremost, if it's on the question phase, I instruct everyone to have five sizzling questions.
Hmm.
And I'm not talking questions that ask about compensation or questions that look at, vacation time or where
Right.
will my desk be
See what
seated.
my perks are and all
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
absolutely. No, no, we're talking five sizzling questions. So one of those questions might be something to the tune of, Mark, in this particular position, how will I be evaluated and by whom? Because I want to know, will it be you? Will it be a group of individuals? And what are the evaluation metrics? What suggests that I'm a star candidate? What allows me to be able to place on my updated version that I'm the number one or number two person inside of the organization? How do I know that I am better positioned for a raise, promotion, or both? So I need to know immediately how I'm going to be evaluated in this
Hmm.
position and by whom. But there are four additional sizzling questions that individuals will learn when they are inside of Rip the Resume. But to your point, when you say towards the end, I think one of the things that so many people overlook in the interview process is that they don't trial close. They don't ask for the opportunity. And that's why I say in the
Hmm.
book that every single person is a salesperson to some degree. You have had you have had to have sold yourself in those conversations, convince them that you are the person for the opportunity, but most importantly, you have to close the opportunity. You have to trial close the opportunity. And so we give you a formula, a phrase, a way for you to end that particular conversation. It's a very nice runway to place the person that you are asking at ease, if you will,
Hmm.
but you put them on a hot seat and you put them in a position where they have to respond to you so that you are able to walk out of that room, that meeting, that conversation. You are able to exit such knowing what your chances are in terms of being able to join that organization. So, limbo is not something that I enjoy. We
Right.
learn to live with it, but it's not necessarily something I enjoy. I'd rather be on firm footing. And so trial closing helps put you closer to firm footing.
Yeah. The tenor of the conversation ultimately is that they're not only interviewing you and vetting you, you're also interviewing them and vetting them, helping them to feel like, yeah, I get to choose you too. Not in an arrogant kind of way, but there needs to be some kind of stance as well, is that, you would want me to work for you and I would want to work for you as well. So it's a two-way communication. And I love, again, the fact that it's a business conversation is the ultimate goal.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, what are some things that people can, and so we get the idea that, you're diving into the every facet of the hiring process from beginning to end. At the end of the day, at the process where you received an offer, uh, and you've closed it well. What are some things in your mind? And we can also exclude the thank you letter. You sent a thank you note. You thank them. You appreciate them. What are some things that we have to keep in mind as well once we've closed the deal?
Well, again, the follow up is really all you have to keep in mind. I mean, and when we say thank you note, I'm not personally, I'm not a fan of doing a thank you note via email. I'm a fan of going to your local drugstore
Mm-hmm.
and purchasing a hard thank you card and placing a stamp on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm a fan of making sure that inside of that thank you card, you insert content that suggests that you didn't have the thank you card prior to the meeting, but that you put some thought into it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that all you can do after a successful conversation is follow up. You can mess things up by being overly aggressive and reaching out far too often and all of those things. So you have to have some level of a follow up schedule, and then you got to continue to move on. You can't, lean on just one particular opportunity, hoping that that's the one for you. So that job search of yours should have a mix of moving parts and such. And so I think that once you hit the follow up stage, then pretty much your job is done as it relates to that particular employer. And then you go through the process all over again. So, again, this is not rocket science,
Nope.
interviewing and resume writing and career development. They're not necessarily rocket science, but believe it or not, with four generations in the workforce, with 80 million millennials, in the U.S. right now, 50% of the population in the workforce is going to be millennials. There are still a number of people that are underprepared as it relates to such. And so while it may not be rocket science, we want to make sure that you get it right because there are so many people out there getting it wrong.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, just so that we'll be clear here, your book, since the show is going to be published on September 13th, the book release will be September 20th, and that's on a Tuesday, correct?
It is correct. Yep.
And so, when on that first day, where can people go and start pre-ordering their book, as we want them to be ready so when it comes out, it's already in the mail?
Wonderful. So you can actually go to Amazon.com and you can do a search for Rip the Resume to do a pre order. Amazon.com will get you where you need to be. You can also go to Peterson Publishing. When you go on their website, they also have the book on their homepage, which I'm extremely excited about. So you can purchase it there, and you can actually purchase it anywhere books are sold. So you'll be able to find it in bookstores. You'll be able to find it on collegiate campuses, colleges and universities. We are trying to make sure, or shall I say, the publisher is trying to make sure that the book is available wherever books are sold.
And just to give people an idea, and I think you shared this the other day on social media, Facebook, I think is where I saw it, but that the publisher, Peterson Publishing, this is the first book of this kind they've ever published, I think, in the 50 years that they've existed.
Absolutely. So what they did was they're known for collegiate type publications. So to help you with uncovering scholarship money or selecting a college or university of your choice and study plans, or perhaps being an entrepreneur, if you will. My dear friend Felicia Hatcher has a few books through Petersons on becoming an entrepreneur, starting a company on a ramen noodle budget, and some other titles that she has. But
Mm-hmm.
Petersons had never really put any emphasis behind the career development section of their business, if you will. And so I am actually the first author that they are publishing as it relates to career coaching, career development, resume tips, if you will. And I am more than excited about that because it says a lot. It says what they value and trust in terms of our relationship and how it was formed. And I'm just happy that they are 100% behind this particular project and have already greenlighted Rip the Resume version number 2. So we are off and running, man.
Well, I tell you, it is you and I have been in the career development field for a little while. It's hard to get on the front of somebody's webpage, especially the publishers. So that is really, really, really big. So I Thank you so much for being on the show once again. Uh, Give the people your information and how they can contact you.
Wonderful. So you can find me online at torinellis.com. Again, you can find me at torinellis.com. You can find me on all of social media at Torin Ellis. That's Torinellis. And again, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, I'm at Torin Ellis. And that's me. So I appreciate it once again, giving me the platform, allowing me to chat with your digital tribe. And I'm hoping that the conversation that you and I have had is well received.
I know it will be well received, and I want to thank you, those who are listening, for listening again. This show continues to run weekly with information on how to help you with your job search. Want to let you know that, again, September 20th is the date this is going to be released. You want to get it in pre-release form. I believe you're going to have it in Kindle and in book form. Well, is that correct?
Absolutely. It will be in a digital form as well.
Okay, so the Kindle version would be great to have that very first day. And again, thank everyone for listening. And should you have any questions, feel free to contact me at mark at thevoiceofjobseekers.com, or you can go to thevoiceofjobseekers.com, press the speak button, and then you can leave a message right there on the website, or you can also text me right there at 708-365-9822, as well as call me and leave a message. In the meantime, thank you very much. We'll be coming back next week with more tools for your job search. Have a great week.